So now we're going to look at our newest acquisition. It's a Taylor's & Company 9mm 1883 Cattleman. That's what the box looks like. It's got on the side of it here, it says the new West has arrived. And then there's barcodes and everything. So this is serial number 1716. First time I purchased a Taylor's & Company, but thought that perhaps that the 9mm might be a little more economical to shoot. So let's see what we got here. We've got a nice gun holster or holder carrying case with the logo on it. Got a instruction manual on the pistol, warranty, catalog of their other guns. Their Schofields are beautiful, but they're also a little on the, well, I mean, guns are pricey these days, but we're talking about those are mostly around $2,000. And then we've got our receipt for the purchasing of it. So let's see what we have here. Good strong Velcro. And we have looking through at the back side of the case, we can see that there's no rounds in the chamber, so we know the gun's safe. But it has some colorful case hardening. Tells you it's a 9mm Luger. It's a heavy gun, probably heavier because if all the proportions are the same, then you're talking about more steel in the barrel and more steel in the cylinder because the holes are smaller, right? So we're going to take this and get rid of the box temporarily. I guess you call that the cylinder latch pin, and then so that you can remove the cylinder bolt. So the case hardening is, I think, pretty nice. We've got Taylor's & Company across the top here. Everything has a nice finish to it. The Uberti style walnut one-piece grips. We're going to put it in half cock here. So that's where you always want to do that. And then also on any 6-shooter, after you load it or unload it, whichever you're doing, then you want to go completely all the way back and then release the trigger. And by doing so, you will keep the timing sequence in sequence so that you don't have the bolt come up early and put a ring on the cylinder. But probably the number one cause, other than a broken part, is not completing the cycle. So in other words, you put it in the first cock position, that's where the cylinder rotates freely. You can either eject your shells using the ejector rod, or they'll just fall out when you open up the gate and then fall out. But then when you either close the gate or after you've loaded up with ammunition, then you always pull the hammer all the way back. And then if you've done the load one, empty chamber, and then load 4 more, when you let it come down, it will come down on a chamber that does not have a round in it. So at any rate, what we're going to do is we're going to press that. Well, we're going to go back to this again, and then we're going to press the crossbar bolt, and then we're going to pull out the cylinder. Okay, and then if we open the gate, then you want to carefully lift that out so we don't scratch something. So very heavy cylinder. The cylinder, you know, as you can see, compared to a 45 long Colt, the bore holes are smaller. Now something, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but in the holes you can see that it's head spaced. It's not head space, but the spacing in the cylinder is based upon the leading edge of the brass casing. So probably you're going to need to make sure that ammunition is loaded properly and case length correct so that you don't have any misfires. But it has a nice finish and never has been fired yet, so we're going to put some cleaning solution on that. Here's our bolt. We're going to clean that up, and then we're going to clean out the bore with some Sweetshooter so that the bore is being treated so it's ready for its first rounds to be fired, hopefully next Tuesday. Okay, so for this part of the cleaning, we're going to use some Sweetshooter, which is supposed to treat the bore to prevent lead fouling and clean the bore. So we'll this particular cleaning rod's an aluminum rod, which is supposed to protect the bore. So we got a little bit of dirt out. And we're going to leave that pretty wet because we want that to absorb into the bore. I don't know if you can have the bore light come over that way a little bit better. Ah, there you go. So see how nice and clean and shiny the bore on, which it should be for a brand new pistol. So we're going to run that through there one more time with some more Sweetshooter on it. Then we're going to put some of this along the top and at the forcing cone, because again that will make it easier to clean after it's been shot when the powder residue gets on there. We're going to do each of the chambers. And then we're going to wipe the cylinder face with the Sweetshooter to hopefully reduce the adhesion of lead and powder as we fire the gun. So supposedly this Sweetshooter, it cleans the gun, it lubricates, and then the chemicals in it is supposed to seep into the pores of the steel and treat it so that it's slicker, that should repel or reduce fouling or leading in the barrel or the chambers. I've been using it for about 20 years. After I've treated a gun, I have no gun that's ever had any rust, and they seem to be cleaner or easier to clean after shooting. So we're going to take a clean one here, and we're going to just go over like the outside of the cylinder and then wipe down the gun. All the exposed metal pockets. The Sweetshooter is out of Mineral Wells, Texas, and they've been selling this stuff for at least 30 years that I'm aware of. Now my next most favorite lubricant that I use in conjunction with Sweetshooter is Corrosion X. And according to their advertisements, it's the only product you'll ever need to take care of your gun. And again, between Corrosion X and Sweetshooter, I have never had any rusting issues on any of my firearms. I've had firearms that have been in storage for 15, 18 years, and you feel guilty because you haven't recently cleaned them, and then you pull them out of the gun safe and you realize, man, not a drop of rust on them, still nice and coated with oil. So what we're going to do, one thing we didn't do there is we didn't clean our base pin. So clean the base pin here with the Sweetshooter. And then what we're going to do is this is the front of the cylinder, so we're going to put a drop or two of Corrosion X. And then we're going to drizzle a little Corrosion X on the base pin. Before we lose it, we're going to put our 9mm back onto our cleaning handle so we don't misplace that. And then while we've got the gun apart to this level, we're going to put a drop of oil on the locking lug and on the hand area. And then we want to put a drop of oil on the side of the hammer, opening the frame carefully so we don't scratch it. Oh, be important to do that right there. That'll make it a little bit easier. So it feels like we have it semi-lined up. So what we're going to do is put the cylinder pin in and push in that. Ooh, not that lucky all the time. It lined up perfectly and complete the cycle. And spin the cylinder to distribute the oil on the cylinder base pin. Okay. By doing so, you should never end up with a ring mark in between your locking lugs. And so that's something that really can devalue an antique pistol based upon how much wear and tear it's had there through either broken parts or improper operation of the firearm. And so basically we have the pistol ready to go to the range. And now we're going to do a weight comparison between a 5.5 inch Colt SAA made in 1901 and the Taylor & Company 5.5 inch and 9mm and see what the weight comparison looks like. And replace the Colt. And it looks like 2 pounds, 5 1/8 of an ounce. And the Taylor & Company is 2 pounds, 9 5/8 of an ounce. This is a video review of the Taylor & Company 5.5 inch 1873 Cattleman in 9mm. We'll start off with this particular one has a little extra character in the walnut grips. If you'll notice the case color on the hammer and also on the frame and the nice tight finish between the parts between the frame and trigger guard. The screws are blued. This has the cross pin to hold the bolt in, which is in line with the period that this gun is modeled after. Case coloring has a lot of color in it, and then also the blue is highly polished and has a nice fine finish on it. On a scale of 1 to 10, the finish on the barrel and the case coloring is about a 9. The gun is made by 4 Taylors in the company by Uberti in Winchester, Virginia is where it's imported to, and Italy is where it's made. See the beautiful case coloring. Little orange, purple, blue, green. Back strap is nicely blued and polished. The fit and the finish of the wood grips is very nice. Here you should be able to see the serial number of the gun. The loading gate is case colored. The sides of the hammer are case colored. The back of the hammer has case coloring on it. And again, we have a floating firing pin. On the barrel, it's engraved with Model 1873 9mm Luger. Notice the colorful case hardening, the blued screws. It does have a stamping here to sort of mimic the Colt. It does not have the rampant Colt on it. Some import markings. Proofings, I guess you'd say. Notice how the hammer on the side is case colored, and the walnut grips have a little bit more character in them than a lot of the pictures that you see on the internet. It's one of the reasons I chose this one, was the case color and then also the extra grain, I guess you would say, and the grips. Notice that how finely machined and the woodworking skill to have a nice tight fit of the grips on the frame. The loading gate is also case colored, also has the serial number of the gun stamped into it. If you notice the Taylors and Companies on their hammer, they have the standard US hammer showing the long, deep crosshatch with border. And then Taylors and Company, Winchester, Virginia, Uberti, Italy. Taylor and Uberti have done the same thing that standard has done, which is widen the hammer where the hammer screw goes through. And so what it does, it leaves a small gap, very small gap, where the pistol is fired, that there's just a thousandth of an inch or so gap between the frame and the hammer, so that you don't get that scratching that sometimes you see on a Colt and our other pistols. So that's a nice little feature that they've done. Notice the beautiful case coloring, turquoise, blue, a little bit of tan, navy blue. Again, the wood grips have a little bit of extra grain in this on this particular pistol. And the fit and the finish between the grips and the back strap is extremely sharp. This pistol almost has time screws as far as pointing down the barrel like a standard. The quality of workmanship, gunsmithing, and attention to detail is quite high in these pistols, in my opinion. Sometimes makes you wonder why you pay extra money for a standard, because the fit and finish is just outstanding. This gun has been fired about 15 times, and we'll be going out to shoot again shortly, so we'll put a little range review with the pistol when we complete that video. Again, you've got the simulated dates there that look like what a Colt would have on the side of it for this period. So again, you've got the cross pin for the bolt because these were considered smokeless gunpowder frames. And the trigger on it is very crisp, light. I think light would be a better word for the trigger on both of these pistols that you've seen. Very nice pistols straight from the factory.
Why am I shooting so low?
You want some more?
Yeah.
We can switch. Yeah.
I let you you finish him.
I'll aim for the balls.
Non mais vas-y.
Vas-y.
It's
Next step will then put
tiny more recoil,
self-defense
but far more accurate.
Oh, really?
balls, yeah. The reference point that
Ah,
Makes a big
ça
map.
marche pas.
that.
It's here because you can
Yeah,
see.
that's
But yeah, that's JB left and that's right me. Yeah. Ladies come.
because then
Like it, you can do it.
Quite impressive, JB. Quite impressive.
Thank you very much. Give me a bit of time to aim down.
Yeah, because it's easy.
Yeah, it's probably.